This movie may just be one of the most visually beautiful films I've seen on the big screen. Does it deliver from a writing point of view though? Let's dive deep. The much-awaited pan-Indian release from Kannada cinema, written, directed and starring Rishab Shetty, has developed quite a lukewarm response from the audience in terms of advance bookings, at least in the Hindi-speaking states. Kantara was a movie that came as a surprise to especially the Hindi-speaking states in 2022 and grew from strength to strength, heavily relying on a favourable word of mouth. The assumption is that the second installment of the prequel, if I may call it, will follow the same pattern. The movie is set in the era of 345 to 500 CE roughly, during the reign of the Kadamba dynasty, considered to be the first indigenous dynasty to use Kannada as an official language at an administrative level. The film, specifically set in present-day coastal Karnataka, sheds light on the birth of Berme, played by Rishab Shetty, a part of the tribe of the Kantara forest. The significance of the name being associated with a warrior deity worshipped in Tulu culture, often depicted as a warrior on a horse with a sword. The association of the name is that of a guardian and a divine protector. As the screenplay progresses and Berme aids his own people, gaining monetary prosperity through trade in the coastal ports, the rise in prominence and power of the common people comes under the scanner of the king, Kulasekara, played by Gulshan Devaiah. How the violent and oppressive king despises such self-belief amongst the common man, and how it particularly perturbs him to notice a growing affinity between Berme and the queen of the kingdom, played by Rukmini Vasanth, leads to the development of an epic saga called Kantara Chapter 1. The physical conflict that manifests in war is one aspect of this film, but the integration of fate, divinity and the unsaid connection of man with his own land is the elements integrated into the screenplay of Kantara Chapter 1 that especially piqued my interest. Does the story tie into where we left off with the tale of Shiva in 2022? Is something you have to explore through the film. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the movie so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch Kantara Chapter 1 in theaters or not. The underwhelming aspects. Tiring setup and unnecessary humor. The film is 2 hours and 48 minutes long and it takes a lot of time to get into its groove. This is a movie that is told through a narration, but it almost abandons the very idea of this tool, only being integrated in a handful of portions as the story progresses. The film does have the elements one associates and somewhat has got exhausted with when it comes to commercial cinema, and that is the integration of humor through supporting characters. That does not add any value to the movie, nor does it even provide momentary joy with laughter. This is not a language issue. It is merely a roadblock in the screenplay. This includes the character of Prakash Tuminad, his association with the people of Kantara, and the running gag of his romantic partner and a jailer who is easily manipulated by the people of Kantara. The first half of the film almost takes the shape of an adventure comedy that heavily relies on the fish out of water situation of the Kantara people, learning about the functioning of the empire, specifically the trade from the port. While the specifics are denoted merely through a montage, the meat of the scenes seem like meandering filler comedy sequences. This is especially true for a wheel-ridden tower that seems to break everything in its stride, and that sequence seems to never end. While the film in the second half progressively gets better and more engaging, I hate the fact that the makers felt the need to integrate humor even in the intense portions in the second half, specifically in the war sequence. When the emotions are at their pinnacle and Rishab is waging war and annihilating everything in his way, the jarring cutaways to comedic relief in the line of battle was extremely unnecessary. Editing pattern and meandering screenplay. There is something that slightly irked me about the editing pattern of this film. You will see this with many of the scenes, especially when they are being told through the medium of a narration, that they almost rush past various sequences. A lot of information is condensed in these sequences, and this is pertaining to the history and lore of the land. Maybe this was a means to shorten the length of the film, but I believe the story would have largely benefited by being more indulgent in these themes versus the comedic elements it spent time on in its first half. There is specifically a harsh editing cut that you will notice when the people of Kantara get in conflict with the king on their own land, and when night passes and dawn arrives and reality of the carnage sets in, both these scenes don't have a connective tissue, almost seeming independent of each other. For those who have seen the film will know about the exact moment I am speaking about. This abrupt editing pattern is also present for some of the action set pieces. While grounded in realism, the action is to marvel at, but when it dares to become slightly bigger, you find characters flying in the air randomly, taking away from the otherwise gritty tone so effectively executed. As I previously said, the film really takes a lot of time to get going, and it is this meandering screenplay that stops it from touching absolute greatness without any flaws. The spectacle is so jaw-droppingly beautiful, you wish the film was a little more laser-focused on its folklore than its indulgence in being playful initially. The good. Cinematography and production design. You know, when you associate a certain madness to filmmaking, or Francis Ford Coppola going to the dense jungles of Philippines to shoot Apocalypse Now, how Ridley Scott shot extensively in Malta and Morocco for the epic scale of Gladiator in 2000, how our own visionary filmmakers, especially regarding historical tales, leave no stone unturned with their grand vision like S.S. Rajamouli and Sanjay Leela Bansali. That is what I see when I see the frames of Kantara Chapter 1. For Rishab was showered with love and praise for what he delivered with Kantara in 2022, but rather than piggybacking off of the success and relying heavily on a popular IP, Rishab has genuinely dedicated blood, sweat and tears to make this project a reality, and you see it in the beautiful frames captured by cinematographer Arvind Kashyap and the production design by Banglan. While there is an integration of CGI elements in this movie, this film is what we have been urging filmmakers to do for a better output, where the integration of the digital elements seems seamless because it is generated in real environments versus only depending on sound stages and green screens where everything needs to be created. The scale is something to marvel at, and I was in awe of the vision. These are the worlds that don't have visual context, and that is a Herculean task to simply imagine. Most of the sets and environments have been built from the ground up, and you just see the passion for storytelling that seems to have gone missing lately due to the environment of franchise and cameo cash grabs. This movie is devoid of it, and when you see the love and passion in the frames, you can't help but rave about it. There are sequences that especially stand out for me personally. That includes an ambush sequence in the forest which is lit up due to the carnage being caused by the king, the war sequence with nearly 3,000 extras, and especially the climax portion that truly leaves you with chills. CGI and supporting cast. One of the things that many people worry about whenever a franchise becomes popular and the scale of a film increases, it is whether the elements of CGI and VFX will be effective and impressive. And I must tell you, as this movie is set in mostly dense jungles, there is an inclusion of a lot of animals, and the way they have been digitally created is absolutely beautiful. This is especially true for the portions that showcase a tiger that has a deep connection with the people of Kantara and an army that seems to surround the people when they venture too deep into the jungle. The sequence that showcases the spirit of Gulliga taking the shape of the sky in front of them reminds you why movies like Kantara are meant to be watched on the big screen. I particularly loved what the actors Rukmini Vasanth and Gulshan Devaiah have contributed to this tale. While Jairam is effective as the king, I feel like he was given little scope to showcase an emotional range, mostly being a spectator to what his children were up to. Gulshan captures the impulsive, vengeful, jealous, perpetually drunk and directionless king perfectly. Many people are finding his portions in the first half to be cringe, but it is intentional to show you a man blinded by his own privilege, absolutely naive about the threat that looms around the corner. His condescending laughter and laid-back body language is something very intentional. His angst raging against his father when reprimanded was especially one of my favorite scenes, and I must say this is a brilliant Kannada film debut for him. Many people were worried when they were seeing the trailer of Kantara Chapter 1, especially Rukmini Vasanth's character and how the tale may venture into a doomed romance and stray away from the folklore and core of what made Kantara special. And I must tell you that these worries should be set aside because Rukmini plays a character of substance and is extremely effective in her role that is much more than just being a love interest. All the assumptions that people had from the trailer should be put in the trash. She showcases a brilliant range and adds great value in making this film interesting as it further develops in the second half. Music, the sheer audacity and exceptional climax. The music is absolutely beautiful in this movie, composed by B. Ajneesh Loknath, building beautifully on where exactly he left off with the first film. The music in combination with the breathtaking visuals of this movie, and for me the best element, Rishab Shetty's intensity, genuinely creates a concoction that is indescribable, that in moments left me in such awe and wonder that I could understand what Rishab was saying when he said that there is some power guiding him through this film, wanting to tell this story. Rishab is a symbol of hope for the people of Kantara and seeks for basic dignity for his people. His transformation from a savage learning the ropes of trade to a representative of his people who even in the king's court stands proudly, now covered with respectable clothing, is the journey you feel fully invested in. The moment the powers of the gods have a way to take over Berme's being is where I was left speechless. There are scenes so exceptionally performed by Rishab that it genuinely felt like he was being guided by the gods. This is one of those films where you see the frames and understand where the investment has gone. It's for each and every detail that is visible in the frame. Each sequence taking the shape of a painting, scenes almost making the theatre a place of worship. And the climax had that power for me to clap and be in absolute wonder about how they pull this off. This is what the films are about, to dare to take the risk, to have the sheer audacity to pull off the unthinkable. And I think in many ways, this is a feat for Rishab, who could have taken an easier, more predictable route with this prequel, but he challenged himself with the tales and themes that may bring him some criticism today, but I believe progressively it will be a tale of an artist who dedicated 3 years to a project and left no stone unturned in making it a spectacle for the big screen. The sheer effort is clear in every frame of this movie. And that was a video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Kantara Chapter 1. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.